Topher Edwards here. I thought I would make an origins type video describing how I became depressed, for lack of a better term. It all started when I was 19. I was second year, Queen's University. I was wanting to first do pre-med, and then I redirected and started to get into psychology, ironically. So yeah, it was first semester, second year. It was in the fall, around late October, early November. And it wasn't until my roommates approached me and said, you haven't been yourself lately. You've been distancing yourself, you haven't really been eating, you haven't been going to class, you've been sleeping all day, and I realized that they were right. And they were genuinely concerned. So I was shocked that I couldn't see that myself. So I made an appointment with the Queen's doctor at the clinic, and after a 15-minute appointment, she decided that I had depression, and the best course of action would be to put me on an antidepressant, and then suggested that, along with that, I can speak to a counselor, and she didn't really direct me to one. There was one there at the clinic, but the waiting list was weeks. So often in the mental health system, unfortunately, that's a barrier. And it's really unfortunate because when someone finally gets the courage or finally realizes that they need help, and they go, and that's a huge step. That step means a lot to them. And then there's a barrier put in front of them, and they're told, yeah, absolutely, but you have to wait 6 to 8 weeks. And that can completely deflate someone. That can take it all out of them. That can take the drive out of them. So I'm looking back, I can't really remember how I felt about that. I guess I wasn't as informed now, or then, sorry, as I was now. I didn't see it as important, so I went and filled the prescription. And after about 3 days, I hadn't slept, I hadn't eaten, I was paranoid, I was walking around the streets, talking to myself, and then eventually I made a really big cut in my arm, and that's when I realized that something was going on. I had a moment of clarity in my psychosis almost. So I went back to the clinic and saw a different doctor, and this doctor said, I have no idea why you would have been given this antidepressant. I'm not going to say the name of it because I'm sure there's lots of people that respond well to this antidepressant. So she took me off that one, bandaged up my arm, and put me on a different one. She also decided to put me on an anti-anxiety medication. She said the first antidepressant had brought out a dormant anxiety disorder. So what that means is I had potentially a genetic predisposition, and or there was one building, all the puzzle pieces were there, just needed the spark to ignite it, and that medication acted as the spark. So that was when I got the diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder as well. And yeah, that sucks. So after that, the second medication was a lot less eventful. I was forced to drop out. I wasn't able to attend classes. I was just I had no motivation. I had already let myself slip so much there was no chance to recover. At a university like the one I went to, if you fall even 2 days behind, you're pretty much screwed. So I made the decision to return home, uh, try and pursue school closer to a support system at home with my family, with friends there. What ended up happening was this series of events that would eventually lead to some of the worst years of my life, some of the worst psychological pain I've ever been through, and you've read about it maybe in some of the books. Some of it I can't even bring myself to write down. But somehow I just always found a way to keep going through family, through inner strength I never knew that I had. Even at my lowest of lows, when I would swallow an entire bottle of pills and hospitalize myself, or when I would cut my arms up so bad the doctor said it was like Humpty Dumpty. And now I'm still here. What I realized is that you can be dragged through the mud, you could be in the lowest place you think there is, but there's always hope, and it sounds cliche, but there is. You just have to find it. And I guess that would be the origin of the books, really, because when it all began in university, I started writing. So there's about 4 big notebooks full of written journals as well, which those ones will never see the light of day because there is some seriously twisted stuff in there, seriously personal stuff. It was really just a way to try and make sense of what was going on in my head. It was a sort of pressure release valve. Whenever I felt everything was building up and building up, I would just write. And sometimes it didn't make any sense, but sometimes a couple days later I'd look back and then I could try it and put the pieces together. But on the flip side, sometimes I would lose myself in those journals, and I would, end up doing more harm than good. So it was a very fine line. The first book, A Year in the Life, was never meant to see the light of day. It was never meant to be read by anyone. It was a private journal I kept online. And years later, I found it. I was going through my emails, and I guess I found an email where I had forgotten the password, and it was password reset email, so I went through and I found the account, and I was reading through it, and something came over me where I said, I felt like this then, but look where I am now. And I don't know why, but I thought, what if I could do this for someone else? And that's what I set out to do. I didn't want to be an author. I didn't know that it would get to a second book. I didn't know that it would get to a third. I just thought that maybe if I put this out, put a preface in it saying, read on with caution, but read between the lines, know that this isn't just a book of, crazy depressed crap. It's really a look inside the mind of someone suffering from a terrible illness. And, you know, you look in the mental health section at a bookstore and you see books written by people with PhDs and people who haven't gone through it before, and all you're getting is the tip of the iceberg. How are you supposed to understand? How are you supposed to really help someone or help yourself if all you're getting is what's written by some doctor who studied from a textbook? I thought maybe if I put myself out there, my own story, unedited, raw, sometimes deeply disturbing, sometimes incredibly embarrassing, maybe it can do some good. And like I say at the end of the preface, if I can help just one person not feel so alone, then I'll be happy. And some of the responses I've had have just been amazing. And I want to keep that going. That's what's driving me right now. I'm having tough times. I'm having some great times, but when I'm having those hard times, I look back on those comments that some of you leave for me, and they just pick me right back up. And I want to keep doing that for you. So in upcoming videos, I'm going to talk more about bipolar, borderline personality disorder, but I'm not going to say it in terms of this is what the American Psychiatric Association says it is. I'm going to say it from my perspective, from what I understand from other people as I've talked to them. And I'm going to say the truth, the parts people skirt around, the parts people don't want to talk about, the ugly truth. Because if you're only hearing part of the story, then what's the point in telling the story at all? So, that's a little bit of history on me. I hope it gave you some insight into why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I really hope, excuse me, that this can take off into something bigger, that I can get some people behind me and we can really push to make ourselves heard, because I don't see a reason why, you know, I have to do this alone. Like, I think we can all do this together. We can make a difference together. So if you guys want to message me through Facebook, just post on the wall or just private message me. Any ideas, if you just need to talk, I'm always there to listen. I'm just a regular person. You know, it'll be confidential if you want it to be, and you know, we can really make something happen, because too many people are falling through the cracks. Where I live, it's becoming an epidemic, and it's tearing me apart to see these people in the streets and these people overdosing and these people just being ignored because we don't have the resources or because the waiting lists are too long. So it's time to do something. Wish I could be more inspirational, but this is a start. And I hope you guys will join me, so let's see where we can take this.